All right, good morning. Thank you so much for staying with us and welcome back. My good name is Brian Sankwa. This is hashtag Why in the Morning. You can find us on our social media at Y254 channel. Now, in our conversation right about now, we are delving into the state of our cyberspace and cybersecurity right here in our country, with the Kenya's cyberspace developing rapidly, coupled by internet connectivity and mobile penetration. There's need for a skill gap in terms of how are we as a people ready to face potential cyber threats that are now posing as a challenge as well. And with what happened on Monday, are we ready actually as a country in terms of possible, the worst could happen anyways, but we anticipate for the best. But are we ready in terms of our legal policies, measures that we put in place, the systems we have, how secure are they in terms of handling possible threats? And that's just an enemy, and that's penetration as well. In this conversation, to help us unpack and delve deeper into it, we'll be speaking to Martine Osike. He's a CTO and Head of Training at CyberPro Global. Good morning to you, Martine. Good morning. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Right. On the air, before we come on the air, you are really pointing out some good things that are happening at CyberPro Global. Please tell us maybe what happens at CyberPro Global and what role do you play right over there?
Thank you, Brad. As you said, my name is Martine Osike. I'm the Chief Technical Officer at CyberPro and also the Head of Training. At CyberPro, we do capacity building in cybersecurity, though that is ideally training of cybersecurity. Our model is we do partnerships with most of the universities. For example, we have a partnership with the Nairobi University. We have a training academy at Chiromo. We have also partnered with Daystar University at River, and even the town campus is coming up very soon.
Yeah.
We have another training academy at Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Karen. And then recently, we also got into partnership with Kenya School of Government.
Yeah.
We will now be training all the civil servants in issues cyber.
Yeah.
Okay. We are also the brain behind Cyber Week Africa, which is an African or rather global conference. Mm-hmm. We are in our fourth series. The latest one it happened on between 27th of October to 31st of last month at Kenya School of Government.
Yeah.
It was co-hosted by the Ministry of ICT, Kenya School of Government, Ministry of Interior, because we realized that cybersecurity is also a national security issue. And I think, as you've mentioned, previous conversation about what happened the previous
on
days.
Monday.
Yeah, so you realize that cybersecurity is actually a national security issue. So
and it concerns the citizens. And off the air, by the way, as we fix your microphone, you had mentioned that it starts with the people. Not solely the internet. And by the way, if you have no idea what transpired on Monday, is government websites were defaced. They were would we say they were penetrated by, probably, we don't know if they're paid black hackers or white hackers. And what usually happens is when such a penetration, which is actually a cyber threat, happens, usually is they enter into your systems without permission or have access to it. They potentially manipulate the data that's in there. And this is literally the back end of it. So there's a possibility of your data being, let's say, sold to maybe an agency. And there's a friend of mine who was telling me about, data renting. We live in a world where most AI developing companies, and this even touches on, I'd say, energy distribution, especially for developing AI systems where, for example, I begin my own tech giant and I want to test launch it and see, how it's going to perform. So what I'll do is, I'm going to get some 2, 3, or a big tech black hacking company or white hacking company. I pay them and I tell them, go hack Sakwa's systems and we can rent that data just for a little while and we can use it as a sample to test launch our device and see how it performs. So that can be a really ridiculous thing, but from what I understand is you're possibly going to witness that and much more. So I remember as well seeing an update from ICT Cabinet Secretary William Kafogo, who said nothing was really tampered with. Remember, State House was, I think it was statehouse.go.ke, including the Ministry of Health, Education, They were defaced, including interior as well. So what usually happens is if they gain access and entry into your backend operation, it means that you can be logged out of it. And that shows that we need a cyber secure systems that can shield us from such, let's say, dangerous or harmful threats. And this conversation actually entails that. Back to you, Martine. Just from what I've highlighted in terms of nationally as a country, how secure are our cyber infrastructure in terms of dealing with potential outside threats that could possibly do damage to our own infrastructure inside?
Okay, thank you. We are not really in a bad place, but I think they are.
That's good news for sure.
Yeah, they're not in a really bad state. I think whatever the government has done so far in terms of the cyber landscape is a good progress, because the first thing you need is the framework. Yeah. Okay, as I've said, of course, is a concept that we have to adapt and embrace. Yeah. And we must have a mechanism that is going to guide us. And the first thing you do as a government is always the regulations. So talking of the cybercrime framework of the 2018.
But then how effective is it in dealing with these potential threats?
You realize that when you're talking about cybersecurity and AI that you've mentioned, there are very important resources like storage and computing power. I realize that if you are to make any advancement, then you have to look at it collaboratively. You have to pull resources together. You have to bring other partners and players together, and I think that is what the framework will always guide. Okay, who is doing what in all these collaborations. Right. So I've mentioned, for example, the Cyber Week Africa conference. You realize that when you bring those industry players together, you are able to have conversations around cybersecurity. I've also mentioned about the Interdisciplinary Cyber Security Research Center at UN. Right. If you have to come up with solutions, then you must have a space and some resources that actually you are going to run your research on. So to answer your question, especially on where we are as a country, I think at least we have a framework that guides us on how we are supposed to implement cybersecurity solutions. Right. Yeah, and that is a good place. So the next thing we need to do, of course, is create awareness. Yeah. There are people who still do not know what is cybersecurity. Yeah. And cybersecurity is not just a business concept. Actually, it affects you in your own personal life. Right. So we need to create more awareness. We need to have more conversations like this. Yeah. And then after that, then we fix the issue of the skill gap. Most of the...
Or is the skill gap an issue then? Is it because it's a new form, it's a developing a space that initially has not been there? Because now with mobile penetration and internet concentration as well, a lot of people are now on using systems to run workspaces, industries, education, admin work here. So maybe is it a new era that's coming in to replace another era, and that's why there's the issue of, because you mentioned even at UN you're offering more of training. And that is skilling, literally. Yeah,
that is skilling. So most of something funny is like, attacks happen from within. Sure. But then...
Inside.
Yes. But then within the country, is sometimes there are peers doing this. Right. But then we realize that when my peer comes with a cybersecurity solution, I'm likely not to embrace it.
Why?
Okay. Because we still feel like we are not at that level. But then the same technology and skills that you need to do offensive cybersecurity is the same tools I'll do defensive. So if
offensive defensive, that's a good one.
Yeah. So if I'm able to attack, you should at least also appreciate that I can defend.
Counter, right.
So there is a skill gap in the sense that we still believe in outsourcing. Yeah. Especially most of the cybersecurity solutions, we have not really embraced the local talent. Yeah. But I think we have also not created that platform where we can demonstrate our competence. Right. So I believe through these collaborations, more solutions are going to be tailored locally, and we are able to, because we understand our own environment. I'll give you an example of ChatGPT.
It's a big LLM.
Yeah, it's a big LLM. How much are we feeding that that particular algorithm. I mean, we give it data almost every other day.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we had to come up with our own LLM, I mean, it will solve our own local. We understand.
I asked you, why don't we have our own LLM? But we'll answer that when we talk about AI. But then, since on your point before I lose it, maybe what exactly does it take for us to develop a resilient cyberspace, let's say infrastructure, so to say, for lack of a better word?
So as I started, of course, we need the people, and before we get the people on board, we must create the necessary awareness and then solve the skill gap. I believe we have made some good milestones because we have good cybersecurity experts within. But as I've said, we have not had a forum actually to recognize them. Okay, and I say that because I think I don't want to believe that most of the attacks come from outside the country. They come from here.
Yeah.
And
is it Sudan? What these attackers? I don't know. We call them black hackers, but you'll tell me what could that mean. The other also PCP something. How you're hacking to State House, and defense, and even interior. Yeah. So are they right here? If you, in your own analysis, if you were to do a diagnosis of it, could you potentially tell they're from here or operating in a different geographical location?
You may not point out directly where they are from, but my point is we tend to assume that we don't have cybersecurity experts within.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. But
or the threats cannot come from within.
Exactly.
They potentially come from outside.
Yes. Okay. But again, we are very much ready to appreciate that the threats could come from here.
Yeah.
But then we don't appreciate that the solution
could come from here too as well.
Yes. And as I've said, it's just because we believe that it's a concept that maybe we have embraced from outside and therefore they are better than us. So that is an issue we need to fix because we understand our infrastructure better, and therefore I believe we should be in a better position to defend.
Yeah.
Okay. But most of the solutions that are there, you may find that they are outsourced.
Okay.
Okay. So once we solve that issue, and then you asked what then is the next step, is about, I said, pooling. You realize that in computing, you need computing power, you need storage.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the developed countries, for example, something like ChatGPT, it's not easy for you to come up with all that computing power.
Yeah.
It's something we will really want to do, but who will do it? We don't have the capacity in terms of resources to do that unless we pool our resources together.
I actually saw the president talk about storage for I think it has to do with developing an infrastructure, and they said we need thousands of in fact, is it millions of electricity power grid to actually develop even an LLM right here.
Correct.
Yeah. Still on that question, maybe what are some of the specific say infrastructure in our country that could potentially be prone to cyber threats or attacks? And if you look at it in terms of data, what do we need to set up in place that should counter or secure us as we continue to operate as a country?
So there is what we call critical infrastructure, and that is why government is always targeted. Because I mean, government, any data about government is critical infrastructure. And then you have energy. I think energy of late is also targeted because you see energy fuels the economy.
Now, when you say energy, you mean like a power grid? Yes,
a power grid. I mean, there are various forms of energy. I don't know. But normally, any players around energy, they are normally targeted. Kenya Power, for example, and then financial institutions, of course, banks, and then of course I'm always asked, is it okay if a bank is experiences an attack and then they go public? I think that is also another conversation that we may have.
Is it ethical as well? Now that you just mentioned it, I think they should be honest. If you're experiencing a penetration, why can't you just be honest about it?
Most jurisdictions require that if there is a breach, then especially if it's involving personal data, you have to,
hold it back.
Yes, no, not really. You have to declare that actually it happened, because now you see it means that you no longer have control of this data. Therefore, you have to tell the owners of this data that you are no longer in control. Okay. But now with banks, for example, and the government, there is an issue of damage and trust, public reputation and trust. I mean, if you're a parent and you tell your small kid that, I don't have money, then which other option are you giving them? For them, your son, your daughter does not even know if you can ever go broke. So sometimes looking from that analogy, it's like we need to paint a picture that not all is lost, everything is fine. So you have to get a balance. In some cases, it's always about reputation and trust. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you have to protect your business, but also protect the privacy of your customers' data.
Okay. Now, now that you've raised that up, with what happened last week on Monday, statehouse.go.ke, is that statehouse or government.go.ke was defaced, including Ministry of Interior, Health, Education at large. In terms of positioning for preparation of such, I'd say, maybe just to twist it, what are the vulnerable areas for us as a country in the cyberspace realm that we need to be cautious of as we operate and run our systems? Because I remember Cabinet Secretary, I think it was Principal Secretary Interior Raymond Omolo, he came out and said they had issued, they have a response team that was actually acting out on that one, and they're calling on stakeholders to ensure that they take the right measures to ensure that systems are not, yanked out of the operations. Cabinet Secretary ICT Kapogo said that data was not, transferred. In fact, he mentioned only domains were changed, and it's something that they quickly managed to fix. So maybe what are the vulnerable avenues in the cyberspace area for our country that are prone to attacks?
The most critical area is always data.
Yes.
Okay, and data is the records about you. Okay, so if that is not changed in the system, if I cannot have access to your personal identifiable information, then I will say we are safe. Like what the minister said about just changing the domain. You are only denying us access, but you do. Okay, it's a form of an attack, yes. But you did not actually go away or exfiltrate any data from our system.
That's the worst for real. If you change a domain, bro, I'm crying like a baby. I'm crying.
If you look at the principles of cybersecurity, we look at three things. And the first thing you look at is what we call confidentiality. Okay, we normally call it the CIA triad. So with confidentiality, we just want to make sure that the data that we are keeping is only accessible to the rightful people. So from that bridge, you have to look at, was confidentiality breached? Okay,
that was breached, of course.
Okay, and then the next thing you're looking at is the integrity, which requires that when you're keeping data, then it's not supposed to be modified. Okay, or if it has to be modified, then it has to be modified by the right people the right way. So was there data modification?
Of course, maybe you have no idea, because if somebody can deface a whole government website, you can only imagine the worst or the best. So
and then of course now the last principle is availability, of which I think that is what came out strongly, because if you change the domain, then it means if I use the domain through my browser to access the government services, then now you see I can't access it. So that one, no doubt, it was violated. But now we need to go deeper where the other principles also violated. Okay, so availability mostly disrupts business. I mean, if you make my system not available, it means that you are disrupting business. But you see, there is no data loss at that point. So I want to believe that is the only thing that happened. But if the other...
Of course, there's always turning down what to communicate. So like I said, you can only imagine the worst or the best here. But also, when you look at how they managed to deface and get to change even the domain, what does it tell you about accessibility of the back-end operations of the people handling it? Do they have secure measures that could possibly maybe ward off invaders? If from your observation as a cyber security expert, if you are to judge it like a doctor.
Okay, that's a good question, but maybe if I can give I don't know how to call it, but I'll start by saying that we do not have a one solution fit all when you're looking at cyber security. I think we were having a discussion yesterday. I was trying to bring cyber security close home to somebody who actually do not understand. And then I was looking at your household, and then we are looking at that material that you use to build your house. Okay, and then there are people actually who live in I don't know what is the weakest material that that can do a house. Okay, then we have maybe people who live in houses that have been built with timber. We have semi-permanent houses. We have concrete made, that is brick and mortar. But you realize that the security that all these materials offer the person living in those households are different. But again, you realize that even after getting the strongest material to do the house, you still have to erect a perimeter fence, a perimeter wall for that matter, have an electric fence, employ a guard, in some cases actually have sensors, have alarms, and the list grows and grows. So even if you have done all that in your household, you can never guarantee that you are safer than somebody who is living in a different. So that is how the cybersecurity landscape also looks like. So there is no
one size fits all. Okay.
Yeah, there is no one size fits all. What we always say is we always reduce the attack surface.
Right.
That is one thing we always seek to achieve, that you reduce the attack surface by reducing the vulnerabilities. And some of the vulnerabilities are already known because there are different players and we share this information. Okay. So if there are those vulnerabilities that are already known, you can apply what we call patches to it to fix the flaws. But then we also have what we call the zero-day exploits or attacks. Okay. Yeah, so zero-day exploits, those are vulnerabilities that even you do not understand that they exist. Yeah. Even as a human being, you may be the best maybe at what you do. Yes. But then there are always those weaknesses that you have. Until that day when they will come up is when you know, I have this weakness. Right. So even in system, you can always put your best security posture forward, but then you realize that there will always be that vulnerability that could just be maybe because of a misconfiguration. Okay, it may be, it could even be an issue of just power that was supposed to maybe power up a firewall and it goes down. Okay, so there are very many other parameters, but we, as I've said, we always aim to reduce the attack surface. Yeah. But the threats will always be there. Attacks, people, especially if you're talking of critical infrastructure, that is the government, banks, health, energy coming up recently.
Even data managers, because there's even a conversation about who owns e-Citizen. It turned out it was a private firm.
Exactly.
And also the question was how, in terms of integrity and even legal frameworks that guide the government to give a private entity to handle such critical information as immigration details. It's a debate still today, but I understand it's not owned by the government, right? It's a private firm. It's a different conversation. But also still on that, I want you to maybe explain to a person who doesn't understand, if somebody manages to get hold of the back-end operations of a government system, what is that process called? And if they manage to get hold of that data, what are they potentially going to do with it? Is there potential or probability of it being manipulated, adjusted, or maybe can they rent it? I had mentioned something that's called data renting. It's a good debate as well. Maybe they used it to do some sort of like a prototype launching and empirical experiment and then wakarudisha. All these things are set to happen in this AI-powered world. So for a person who doesn't understand the back-end operations of penetration, especially with threats, please, if you can possibly explain to them what could have happened, the back-end side of it.
Okay, there is something we call there's something we call defense in depth. We are good.
Yeah, right.
Defense in depth, and in defense in depth, we are talking of introducing different layers of security on data. Okay, so it is multi-layered kind of approach. Right. Okay. So if you have an organization, we have different layers on which you can apply your cybersecurity protocols. Number one is data, which is at the core. Yeah. Okay, so you okay, maybe I go through them and then we see one by one. So after data, data does not just exist. I mean, in the air, it has to exist. It has to exist in an endpoint. Right. And in this case, So an endpoint could be maybe a phone, a cloud, which is ideally is just a machine, is a storage area. Cloud is just there to mean that you can access it remotely, but actually exists in a physical device somewhere. Okay, so that is the second level after the data itself. You are looking at that endpoint that is actually hosting that data, and then from that, then the different endpoints are interconnected. So that is what forms now the network. And then now from the network, now you connect to the internet. So they are different. It's
a chain, actually.
Yes, it's a chain. So when you're talking of defense in depth, it is a requirement that you have different security layers, if I can call it that way.
Sure.
So if you penetrate into my system, let's say you break the network layer, then I have to make sure that my endpoint or what we call host or system security is okay. So yes, you will get into my network, but then you will not get through my host or my system. And then below that, if you again go through if you breach my system or my host, then I have things like encryption of my data. Okay, so that is why I said when you are looking at the threat level, and of course it's analysis that you have to perform, you want to see what was actually breached. The biggest threat is always the data breach, as you've said. What if these people get hold of the data? And then, of course, now it becomes data in wrong hands. So
would you call those black hackers? Or, are they even hackers? Maybe for somebody who doesn't understand, are they black hackers, white hackers, or they could be both doing the same thing? And maybe who do they represent? Because I also want to know, if you're penetrating and infiltrating into my site, who are you working for? Are you working for a CIA? Are you working for a Russian? Are you working for a big tech? Because all this data is very lucrative for some of these, franchises.
Sure. So maybe before I come to the categories of the hackers, I'll start with the motive.
Yes.
And of course, you'll realize that cybersecurity did not start actually today. Cybersecurity started in the 70s and even way before that.
Right.
But then it was out of curiosity. I'll just do something out of curiosity. Then from there, we started looking at monetary gains. So I hack because I want to get monetary gain. After that, we started, people now want to have influence and control through hacking. Okay, that is why maybe right now we have countries actually hacking, national governments trying to hack other countries or something like that.
Somebody tried to hack was it the Pentagon? I don't know.
Yes.
One of the most powerful defense systems.
Yeah, sure.
You can imagine having
Yes.
such information about the US military.
Yeah. So you realize that it has risen above you as an individual if you are a hacker, but actually as a collective, as a government, you have, as an entity, you have a collective interest and motive when it comes to cyber security. So it has been there, and there are different motives. And now that one brings us now to the categories of the hackers. So we have what we call black hackers, which of course they do it with the wrong intention. Okay, and then we have the white hackers, which are now, they are ethical. So a company may engage a white hacker just to test their system, because as I've said, the same techniques that is used for offensive is what is used for defensive. It's only that now a white hacker is doing it from as what maybe the black within the organization. Yes, you are looking at a system, but from the outside, from external perspective, from the external, acting as a black hacker. Yes. But of course, the entity that has engaged you is aware of what you are doing.
So how important is that as well for companies that are data centered?
It is very important because you are given a chance to bring out those vulnerabilities, and then you work on them before the bad guys can actually do it. Yeah. So it's a very good thing, and I think every company should have a strategy for that. And before you even go there, every company needs to have somebody. I think ODPC is encouraging companies to have what you call a data protection officer, DPO. So this is somebody who actually understands all the metrics about data. That is where you can start from, because we cannot be talking of ethical hacking if you can't even talk about Sorry.
We're going to take a very short break and then we'll be right back.
Sorry.
Well, here are the latest reactions from Ukrainians to the talks.
Y254. Imagine.